was perhaps 10 minutes before they heard a knock at the door. There's a typo right there. There's no Y there. They heard a knock at the door. Pinkie Pie pulled away, and the first sensation Twilight registered, the mouth was empty, cold. Spike, Spike, she whispered. Her eyes shot open and threw herself to her hooves. We forgot about Spike. She wiped a bit of was it Pinkie's drool from the corner of her mouth. Then she undid her sound spell. Come on in, Pinkie Pie called to the door. She climbed to her hooves and smirked as she bumped her flank against Twilight's. Twilight blushed furiously. That's not suspicious at all. Had all that actually just happened? Yes, she realized. Yes, it had. Spike swung the door open. You guys have been in here for a while. Did you figure it out? Huh? Twilight said. Figure what out? Spike gave her a confused look. If Pinkie Pie can keep me, he said. That's why you. That's what you two were talking about, wasn't it? Yeah, Twilight said. Yeah, it was. Pinkie Pie can keep me for another day. She grinned like an idiot. Pinkie Pie can do whatever she wants. Hmm. As in sex, Twilight said. Your first time specifically. Oh, now she's talking to Rarity? Twilight and Rarity were the only two ponies in the Carousel Boutique. The curtains were pulled shut by Twilight. It seemed appropriate, given the subject matter. The result was that Rarity's kitchen was dim as Rarity prepared them. Each a cup of tea. Twilight waited at one side of her tiny table. What? Rarity said. She dropped the teacup on the floor, but Twilight caught it with her mind before it could meet an untimely fate. Really, Twilight? That's not something you just come right out and ask a lady. Since when were you so forward? Since my first kiss, Twilight sang in her head. I'm sorry, Rarity, she said. I just thought it was something friends could talk about. All right. Rarity ducked into the seat across from Twilight and began to nurse her tea. We most certainly can, Twilight. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But you have to whisper conspiratorially, like, and lean in like this. Twilight did as she was told. Having friends was pretty strange sometimes. My first time was absolutely dreadful, darling. He had a high-born lout from Manhattan, and I was a little airy teenager dreaming of a knight in shining armor. Do you really want to talk about about her brother? He wanted sex. I wanted a fairy tale. It all came down to the fact that he was dishonest and I was gullible. He left the morning after. I was just about another notch in his horn. Twilight gasped. That's terrible. Rarity shrugged. I was devastated. It didn't meet my expectations, but then nothing would have. Nothing back. I mean, looking back, the first time it is terrible for every pony in some way. It was over a year before I tried again, and this time I made sure he was a gentle colt. Rarity sighed. Yes, he was a very fine fellow. Terrible at sex, though. Very unfortunate that. So you don't even care? Twilight said. So that that you were used your first time? Rarity chuckled. Twilight, it was my first time. It was always dreadfully embarrassing and horribly awkward. I mean, what did I expect? I got it over with and learned a valuable lesson about stallions in the process. Huh, Twilight said. Thanks, Rarity. You've given me a lot to think about. What about you, darling? Rarity asked. I hear the students in Candleluck can get quite kinky, Rarity tittered. Surely you have some nasty stories to share. Twilight said as she stood. My first time? Call me crazy, but I'm thinking it might be tonight. Twilight's teleport took her away just as Rarity's teacup shattered against the floor. Why is that so hard to believe that she's a virgin? Seriously. Applejack heaved the bale of hay up into the rafters. A sheen of sweat glistened on her brow. Don't know why you're asking, she said in a characteristic drawl. But I don't see any reason not to tell you. I lost it to my colt friend. He'd sneak out at night and knock on my window. Colt scratched furiously at the nape of her neck. Being in Applejack's barn with all the hay and air all around her always made her itchy. It makes me itchy too. Anyway, Applejack said, he came out one night and told me he was ready. So he snuck out here and I gave myself away right in that corner over there. Of course, it was later in the season, and there was more hay to lie on. We made like bunnies for near on 4 hours before Gran came in round morning. Almost gave her a heart attack. Twilight was taken back. 4 hours? She asked. Applejack nodded. You unicorns have got your hornplay, and them Pegasi have their tingly little wings. Earth ponies have got stamina. Yeah. I love Applejack as a character. I was born in the South, so. Do you want to tumble with Applejack? You train for 4 to 6 weeks, load up on carbs, and bring plenty of water. Huh, Twilight said. So how was it? Applejack frowned. It was sex, she said, for 4 hours. She turned away. She turned away to heave another bale in the loft. It was great. I'm good with southern accents 'cause I was born with one, but I can't really do it for females that well. Oh, come on. Seriously, Dash? I bet it in a race, Dash said as they strode along the road leading out of Ponyville. Dash had finished her weather work in a small amount of time as always, and it was cloudless, sunny day. It was a cloudless, sunny day. Twilight had caught her heading to Sugar Cube Corner to relax. You what? Twilight said. My virginity, Dash said. I bet it in a race with this cold Black Blitz. If I lost, he'd get to screw me under the bleachers during our third period spare. What? I never understood racing. That's the one thing. That's the one stereotype I don't live up to. Being born in the South, I don't like racing. Twilight took this in silence as they walked. Betting it in a race? That sounded so well. It sounded exactly like the kind of thing Rainbow Dash might do, actually. So you lost? She asked after time. Dash sighed. I tried. I really did. But he was faster than you? Dash scoffed. No, she said. I meant I tried to lose, Twilight. I'd had my eye on Black Blitz for months, but in the end I just couldn't do it. I had to win. Wait, Twilight said, so you didn't have sex with him? Dash waved a hoof. No, we still had sex. The race was really just his way of letting me know he was interested. He was still up for it when we finished. So if you bet your virginity, Twilight said, what did he bet? Oh, that. If I won, he had to get his friends to stop harassing Fluttershy. He did. And we were kind of a thing for a while before he was because he was boning me anyway. God damn. So they all knew she was off limits. Wow, Rainbow Dash, that was very good of you. Yeah, Rainbow Dash said. I'm pretty awesome. So what was it like? Twilight asked. The race? It was around the regular track, but we cooked up a thunderstorm and made it so that the wind shear, not the race, Dash, the sex. Dash waved a hoof again. Oh, the sex. Let's just say that he misunderstood what I meant when I said I liked it fast. He cringed for 2 months afterward when I called him Blitz. Why are you asking all this stuff anyway? Well, Twilight said, I'm doing a study, sort of, collecting data for an experiment I might perform, so to speak. Dash arched an eyebrow. You're getting laid tonight? I love that straightforward kind of shit. Twilight gave a little pout. That's obvious, huh? I'm asking everyone. Oh, Dash said. Well then, ask Pinkie Pie. She'll have sex with anyone. Rainbow Dash! What? Dash said. It's not a bad thing. She's just being Pinkie Pie, is all. One time I walked in on her and Pokey at one of her parties. And Pokey? What the hell's Pokey? One of her parties, and she said, there's always room for one more. And I was like, well, in that case... Twilight felt her face burn as she blushed furiously. Rainbow Dash! Dash seemed to catch herself and gave a light laugh that sounded a little too forced. Too much? Too much. Well, don't ask Fluttershy, Dash asked. Why not? Twilight asked. Fluttershy was the only friend remaining for a complete data set. Virgin, Dash said matter-of-factly. And being Fluttershy, she's, well, you know, shy about it. Right then, Twilight said, wheeling on the road to face the direction of the library. Data set is complete. Time for the next item set on the checklist. Twilight waited for Dash to ask what it was. Instead, Dash took off in the direction of Sugar Cube Corner. Have fun, Dash called back. Twilight reviewed item 2 of her mental checklist. Oh, she be having fun, alright. Alright, Twilight got back to her library with 6 hours to spare before nightfall. She spent 4 of them studying upon the library's woefully inadequate selection of books on everything sex. Mostly stallion on mare, but plenty of techniques that could be adapted or reimagined. Oh yeah, I forgot it's girl on girl. Her first sex is lesbian sex. I I didn't it didn't help it didn't help her come to any sort of decision. Luna was certainly a beautiful mare, yes, and she was trustworthy and interesting, and she was most definitely a skilled partner. But if she was to be believed, if she was to be believed, how many ponies had dreamed of taking the of the night to bed since her return? I don't know. But was Twilight the Virgin, which it was all she had ever been. When stallions and mares had approached her in Canterlot, eager to take a piece of Celestia's prized pupil, she even had lesbians come on to her. Seriously? Eager to take a piece of Celestia's prized pupil, Twilight had turned them down on the premise that she didn't need intimacy to be the mare she wanted to be. That hadn't changed, and if she slept with Luna, she'd never ever be Twilight the Virgin again. She'd be giving up the starry-eyed preteen who mastered magic under the tutelage of Celestia, filling her way as another part of her life. Frustrated, Twilight cast away her books and climbed into bed. I'm being ridiculous. The past is the past, and I'm not giving up my childhood by accepting a perfectly natural part of my adulthood. Okay, we're 24 minutes in. Um, there was another matter of Luna, who had held Twilight close throughout the night, who had demanded Twilight give the matter her full attention before coming to a decision. The princess of the night was beautiful, but what made her beautiful? Surely aesthetics were something that could be quantified. The way her mane flowed around her head, exotic, cool, and filled with twinkling stars. The way the way a lock of the ethereal hair, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Hair curled around just above her brow, tucked neatly underneath her tiara. The sheer force in the princess's gaze, the graceful curve of her belly into a powerful chest, the slanted ears, the taut shape of her skin over her hindquarters. Ugh. The way she looked so right when set against the night sky. The way her voice made Twilight listen with every fiber in her body. Would Luna remove her tiara as she laid Twilight down? Would she take off her regalia piece by piece and let Twilight run her hooves across her bare body? What? What? Would she lean in, breathe against Twilight's mouth, and kiss her? Would she keep kissing her, working her way down Twilight's body until... Okay, she doesn't know a lot of shit about sex, but like she's never had sex before, and she never really talked to any pony about it, but she seems to know a lot about it. Twilight didn't need to call on what she'd read out of books to know what to do next. Upon her purple covers, she slid a foreleg down past her waist and gingerly stroked it against her marehood. Ugh. She shuddered as a wave of pleasure coursed through her body as the aching need she'd brought on with her fantasies was somewhat abated. Twilight gave a little whimper and threw her head back as if where it pumped against the pillow. Her horn flashed once, and every blind in the library was drawn closed as the latch of the door turned. Twilight thought back to kissing Pinkie Pie, the other mare's tongue playfully tangling with her own, and they used their hooves to pull each other close. But now Pinkie Pie went further, picking Twilight up and throwing her on the bed before pouncing. They rolled around laughing and screaming in ecstasy as Pinkie Pie let Twilight explore. No boundaries. God damn it. Twilight jammed her eyes shut, her mouth broke into a silly smile, and she cried out, wrapped her hind legs around the hoof she was using to pleasure herself. She rolled onto her belly and bit the pillow, tasting cotton. But she wanted to taste Applejack. The mare said she'd made love for hours. How musty it must have been when they finished. Twilight would lean in and lick the sweat off Applejack's powerful body, the cum off her freckles, and then they'd share a sticky kiss. Her hoof and her bed sheets were getting soaked. Was this wrong, wanting to sleep with her friends? She was just fantasizing, but Twilight wanted some pony there with her at that instant. She knew she was abandoning reason. Her head felt fuzzy and she couldn't wipe the smile off her face, but her nethers felt so good. They burned, and the rest of her body was catching fire too. Rarity made her tea, and they'd tell each other silly stories. When they go up to Rarity's enormous soft bed, they lay down, and Rarity would say, "This is how us ladies treat one another, darling." And it would be soft and gentle and slow, but not any less sex. And they'd suck each other's horns like only unicorns could. Twilight spat her pillow out of her mouth and rolled back onto her back. "Ah!" she screamed, clamping her free foreleg over the other. She could hear the blood pumping into her ears as she bit down on her lower lip. She would walk in on Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie screwing upstairs in Sugar Cube Corner, and Pinkie Pie would shout, "There's room for one more," and Twilight would be stuck between Rainbow Dash's lithe, muscular form and Pinkie Pie's soft body. They move against her, over her, flesh against flesh, and Twilight would come screaming. Then it would be Pinkie's turn, and Twilight and Dash would work together, hungrily lapping at Pinkie's marehood, sucking at her ears and her tongue. Ugh! I'm disgusted by this. I ate 3 week pizza. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna stay down for much longer. Dash would be forceful and aggressive. Oh wait, they make Pinkie Pie come too, and then share a victory kiss that tasted like the mare's pleasure. Dash would be forceful and aggressive. She'd tell Twilight what to do, and Twilight would do it. She'd do whatever Dash wanted. Twilight's back arched involuntary. Ah! As she touched herself, a tightness built inside her abdomen, and her thoughts became even more fuzzy. It wouldn't be long now. Ah! Ugh! I really don't want to read any more of this. I really don't want to read it. She could have Luna tonight, and she'd learn how to please another pony. Luna would teach her. Luna would show her. How could Twilight stay afraid of this? Her body wanted it so badly. She would have been able to tear her. She wouldn't have been able to tear her hoof away if she tried. Ugh. Yeah, I was right. The pizza ain't staying down too well. The bathroom seems like a fucking mile away. Alright, please don't vomit on while recording. Luna would lay her down and kiss her neck and face, and they touch each other and become wet and wanting. She run her tongue over Twilight's horn as Twilight fondled her stiff wings. She'd slide a hoof between Twilight's legs and show Twilight all the things she was doing wrong right now, and all the ways she could be doing it right. What would what would Luna's marehood taste like? What would Twilight's marehood taste like to Luna? When they kissed afterward, an aggressive, wet, kneading kiss. Twilight taste herself on Luna's lips? Ugh. After Luna had lapped up the juices of Twilight's orgasm. Getting a terrible taste in my mouth. Probably shouldn't have had that pizza before I started this. Alright, where is it? Would Twilight be able to savor her own flavor on Luna's tongue? Ugh. Without thinking, Twilight switched hooves from her right to her left. She brought her right hoof up to her mouth and gave an exploratory lick. Then it turned her on even more. What was wrong with her? Yes, what the fuck is wrong with you? Was she a deviant? Twilight shuddered in ecstasy as waves of pleasure coursed through her. Would Luna be proud? She put her lips around her hoof and began to suck. She was going to come. She was about to really come. Luna's body against hers, moving, sliding. Twilight feeling their flesh together. Luna's tongue in her mouth, on her ear, across her marehood. Luna's powerful forelegs on either side of her, pinning her almost, and they panted together, moved together, came together. "Mistress!" Twilight screamed as the full force of her orgasm struck. "Mistress! Ah, I really hate this." She panted and moaned. Oh yeah, by the way, Luna made Twilight call her mistress. Her words lost on her own ears, as if every fiber of her being burned. Waves of bliss, pure, unbridled ecstasy shot through her, and she felt herself coming on her own hooves from on her own hooves to her ears. Her nostrils filled with the scent of her sex, and her back stuck to the bed in a pool of her own sweat, and Twilight kept coming. Ugh, this is disgusting. At last she pulled her hoof away from her tender marehood, then collapsed on her bed, gasping. That had been, still was, something that Twilight really didn't want to go without. No, now that she wanted, now she knew. Oh, come on, where is it? Now she knew it existed in the first place, and she'd be seeing Luna that night. She'd let her head clear. Twilight decided as she lay in bed. She'd let her head clear and see if, in the 2 hours remaining before nightfall, she'd be able to find a good reason not to sleep with Luna. It was not a long 2 hours, or a long walk through the evergreen forest, or a long carriage ride. She arrived at Luna's towering candlelight just as the last light of sun had given way to the dark of the night. Then she stepped off the carriage with smooth surety. I don't know. She turned to the bat-winged Pegasi that had pulled in there. "Leave us," she said. They left, and Twilight turned to the Princess of the Night, who sat much as she had the evening before, with her back to Twilight and gazing at the sky. Luna spoke. "Did you come to a decision, Twilight Sparkle?" Twilight nodded, even though she knew that Luna couldn't see. A faint smile graced her lips. "Do it." And this story has a full 9,745 views and has 1,341 likes and 44 dislikes. All right, that was chapter 2 of The Dark Apprentice. I'm sorry it took like a half hour, but this is gonna be in different parts. But I really hope you didn't enjoy. But if you did, then don't hesitate to like. I really don't care if you like or favorite or subscribe or anything, as long as you watch and don't bash me in the comments. We're good. All right.